All right, Friday night. We got a special Friday night. Hey, Ted, how's it going?
It's going really good. Middle of summer, actually. Well, it's really just the beginning of summer. It feels like the middle already, but yeah, it's going good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I almost had to put a sweatshirt on because it's only low 90s today. But we got a special podcast tonight because we have Bailey Hinz on. Hi, Bailey. How's it going?
Hi, it is going well. It's going well. I'm
Awesome. Well,
loving the summer right now. So,
yeah. Well, Bailey and I actually know each other from a little while ago, where you were a pro triathlete, and we crossed paths in races like Oceanside and what have you.
mhm.
And there's another panel that I think we were either on together or we were connecting that way as well. But
Mhm.
you've been part of our endurance community for such a long time.
Mhm.
We recently reconnected, and you are now doing sports psychology work.
Mhm.
And I immediately thought of having you on our podcast because this is an area that I think a lot of athletes overlook and really need some help and guidance. But before we dive into that, could you give a little bit of a background in terms of your endurance accomplishments and where you're at there, and then a little bit about your company?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for asking. So I actually started, I was a musician way back when. I was an opera singer, but was semi-thwarted by the stage fright and anxiety, and then got into uh, cycling and running, and I'd always been a water person, so got into triathlon as I transitioned out of music. Um, Ended up being good at triathlon. And in the meantime, I had become a music therapist. So that was kind of the direction I took with that. And in that work, I focused on more experiential work for people with eating disorders, disordered eating. Meanwhile, I'm getting more and more into sports. I raced for Colorado State University and then raced professionally for 3 or 4 years. Got very burnt out, so took a step back and uh, then got more and more interested in the mental health side of things really for high performers on both sides, be it the music or um, be it in work, students, and obviously athletes. And as I did more of that work, I ended up going back to school, became a licensed clinical social worker, started riding bikes again, and really found so much joy in cycling when I came back to it with a bit different perspective. And uh, so, of course, you dive into that and learning more and more about the mental health side of sports, mental health side of performance, and what that means. And short story long, led me to the creation of my business, of my therapy business, which is Synapse Elite Performance and Recovery. So I work with high performers across the board, but of course have a very special place in my heart for endurance athletes, for all athletes, but especially for endurance athletes, and helping people find what they are looking for in sport by working on some of those mental barriers and find what they're looking for.
Wow, that's so great. What a great story. So most of the people that listen to our podcasts, or at least we think, are age group triathletes, right?
Awesome.
So maybe not the most elite, like professional level. Maybe we have a few professionals I know that listen, but what do you think is the I don't know area that maybe an age group triathlete would most benefit from working with somebody like yourself?
I think it's twofold, and it really depends on the person. For some people, it's just going to be those fears that come up with getting into open water, getting in the TT position. all of the logistics, and that's very overwhelming for somebody who is new to the sport. And so just very simple breathing exercises, visualization, the relaxation, so it's not so high stress. um that's kind of more on the beginner side. But then, I mean, I know some pretty serious age groupers. So on that side, we always run the risk of um, starting to tie our performance and our self-worth together. And when that happens, it's just an absolute recipe for disaster, because there gets to be all this pressure. And if I don't win my age group, people are going to be disappointed in me, or I'll let myself down. And it just becomes this really high stakes, high stress environment. It stops being fun, and our brain just implodes, because turns out we can't perform well while in fight or flight. And it leads to that burnout. It leads to not enjoying the sport, and it's not sustainable, or can lead to that like panic training, right? So people are now overtraining, can't take a day off, freaking out if we have a recovery week. So now you're not only messing with your mental health, but now your physical body is deteriorating, right? So especially in a maybe an age grouper who isn't coached and doesn't have that person putting the guardrails on them. So kind of addressing all those issues depending on what the person's dealing with.
I love that I love your perspective. And as someone that coaches a lot of athletes, I still see it, and I'm fighting it as a coach, right? Like
Hmm.
I set up the guardrails, and then the guardrails get torn down. And yeah, it's a real thing.
Hmm.
It is real. And as a coach,
Hmm.
like I try and work with my athletes on that exact same thing. And you know, the I don't really want to ask you a question. I want more like a deeper perspective into why do you think it is that the self-worth gets tied to the triathlon more so than many of the other things in life, like their family, their job, their whatever the case may be. Triathlon tends to be the one thing that they really tie to their self-worth.
Well, I'm going to be very therapist-y
I love
about
this.
this one. And it really goes back to that sense of self. A lot of times there is some sort of trauma associated with uh, our beliefs about ourselves, right? And trauma, there's big T trauma and there's little T trauma, right? The big T trauma is a catastrophic event, a crash, combat violence. But little T trauma are those little things that happen throughout our lives that shift the way we see ourselves and the way we see the world. It can be little comments. It can be uh, a minor crash. It can be any sort of little thing. And trauma. Trauma isn't about the thing that happened. It's about the way that that thing changes the way we see ourselves and the way we see the world and the beliefs that we develop. So maybe, and it doesn't always, it's not always trauma as in something bad. It can be a series of things that happen that shift our perspective. So maybe we are only getting praise when we succeed, or we were a very high achiever in school and had to get the perfect grades. And well, that's how I know I'm good enough, is because I'm getting good grades and I'm getting into this college. And that feeling can tie our self-worth to our productivity. And triathlon, it can really foster that, right? Because, oh, my numbers are going up and I'm getting fast. And there's always another level and always another thing that we can push ourselves. And I mean, let's face it, like triathletes, endurance athletes, were a little bit crazy. So all of our friends and family are like, "Whoa, look at you! You're up at 4 a.m. and swimming for an hour and a half. Like that's great." Da, da, da. And so then we feed off that praise, and it activates these beliefs that we may have about our value and our worth and how they are associated with our results. yeah, and it's just such a good, like a one-to-one that it tends to activate that.
Yeah, I also think it's a little bit of it's something that's like I don't know, like very linear. The more you train, the harder you train, the better you do, especially in the beginning.
Mm,
Especially in the beginning, right? Like you have these meteoric rises in the beginning, right? And every extra hour you train, you do a little bit better. You
hmm
go a little bit further up the podium. And then I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but then you just still want that feeling. Like,
hmm
oh, if I go a little bit harder, I can get the next podium. And then if I go a little bit harder, I get the next one. You get that, the praise from even within yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back to that whole like taking a day off, right? Or pushing ourselves harder and harder because eventually that plateaus, right? But by the time it plateaus, we've had all these and we get have all those endorphins and the dopamine and we feel so good about this rapid growth that we've had and start to think, oh, I have to do more and have to do more. And then it doesn't help. We have, you know, Strava, every time I have a recovery week, Strava yells at me and is just like, your productivity is down by 27% this week. Or, um, whatever their new AI is always throwing low key shade at me, right? So if you aren't in a space of awareness, it's really easy to get sucked into that and that more mentality, that more is better.
Well, some of it is sort of driven, like you said, by social media or just media in general,
Mhm.
because there's Triathlete magazine. And so what do we go around saying we're triathletes
Mhm.
as opposed to shifting it to I do triathlons. And this goes
Mhm.
back to where you started with. You mentioned that you talk with people about their why or why are they
Mhm.
doing this?
Mhm.
How do you draw that out from someone other than and how are they honest with you as opposed to they want to win their age group or I don't know, how do you draw out the why people are doing triathlon?
And it depends on the person. Um, Sometimes it is just asking the question, why? And some people have never thought about why. And when they do something, they're like, oh, that's my reason. Or that reason has gotten so convoluted. Well, I'm doing it to be healthy. Okay, well, is this still
Yeah.
healthy? Right. And but sometimes it goes, a lot deeper than that, right? It's uh, some people have so much going on up here that they don't know how to sit still. Some people I feel they're lacking in their friendships and their families and their work, and this is the one place where they feel good enough. And so they latch on to that, right? And for some people, there's a lot of, body image and disordered eating, and that gets into it. Some people want to be an influencer or they are an influencer and now they have to produce something in order to get that feedback, right? So it depends on the person and there are patterns that I see emerging, but everyone is going to have a little bit different journey of how we get there.
It's an interesting one. 'Cause, as a coach, I do ask this of my athletes is like, especially when we first start, like, why?
Hmm.
And a lot of them don't even know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like they can't articulate it,
Hmm.
especially if they've been in the sport a long time, right? They literally can't articulate it. Do you run into that with some of your clients?
Oh, absolutely. And that's such a good point with people who've been in it a long time because how you said before too, it's like it starts to become your identity.
Yeah.
And so it's not just adults in triathlon, right? It's like high school kids that have been doing swimming or gymnastics since they were 3 years old. And that's my friends, that's my hobby, that's my extracurricular, that's my how everybody knows me. Like, who am I, without this sport?
Well, it's interesting when you have an injury or someone has an injury and the sport gets
Yeah.
taken away from you, that you can't run, you can't bike, you can't swim, you
Mhm.
can't participate in triathlon. How much do you work with athletes who are injured and how to bring them back to the sport?
Oh, am I the worst if I say like that's almost my favorite? Like, and of course I don't want anyone to be injured, but when somebody is sidelined like that, it just reveals so much, right? Like now we have to sit with ourselves and um okay, what do I do with my time? Like, how do I eat a normal meal? What is it? What do I do with my morning? How do I socialize is a really big one. I commonly, it's like I stopped doing this sport because I have an injury and now all of a sudden nobody calls.
Hmm.
All of a sudden I don't have any community. Um, and and people really have to face not just their identity but also their coping skills, right? That whole the the meme or whatever of like take your feelings and put them in a muscle, like we do that, right? And like just you've got your whenever I see somebody really in the thick of it, it's like, oh man, what demons are you fighting, right? So when we don't have that, plus, the endorphins, the dopamine is very regulating and uh, can become addicting and needing more and more, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So
Hmm.
when there's that injury, so
Hmm.
um, but also that can too. The other side of it is. Um, Sometimes that's not it. Like sometimes it's like we were genuinely mentally okay and loving the sport and healthy in the sport, and now I have this injury, and now I'm sidelined, um, and now I'm scared. I'm last time I was on the bike, I was in a horrific crash, and now I'm scared to go fast. I'm scared to corner. I'm scared if I run fast, I'm gonna tear my ACL again. And so working with those fears, like post injury, if that's coming up in the same way that we would work with like a traumatic incident in almost some like immediate trauma care to lessen the impact of those sorts of things.
Oh, so John and I are both sitting here. Yeah, yeah, we've been through.
Hmm.
They've been. This is very. It's resonating, obviously, both with both of us. We've
Yeah.
both been through a lot of traumatic situations with injuries. So let's switch gears a little bit and think
Mhm.
about now the other side. Right, everything's positive, and I just
Mhm.
want to perform better. What can we do mental health wise? Just I'm in a good place. I just want to perform better.
Yeah.
What kind of services do you normally do with those people?
Yeah. So for some people, it is a very specific thing that is, it seems like a barrier to performing better. So, say somebody who's like in practice, I hit my splits every single time. I'm hitting PRs. I'm feeling good, but then when I get into competition, I'm choking. Like there's this thing that happens, and I feel okay, but I never hit my time. So that means we have something buried in there. That's something buried. And I will circle back, but a tool, a therapy tool that I really like for that is using EMDR, which is I said I'll circle back. Um, then the other one is a lot of like simple grounding stuff, like stuff I can teach you in a session, right? Of um, using like heart rate variability. So that is the idea of getting our hearts to be more even and to be more regulated, so we're not jumping into that panic mode, and deep breathing exercises, muscle relaxation. Um, Silly as it sounds, just like not silly, but as simple, that's the word, as simple as it sounds, like mental rehearsal, visualization, having mantras, having your lucky bracelet that reminds you of your safe, calm place going into it. Things that are going to pull your brain into focus to help you reach that next level. Um, so that's kind of that side, is to answer that question. If we don't know what that stuck thing is, again, EMDR, so eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. It's a type of therapy in which we use cross-body stimulation. So this can be like holding little buzzers, or I'll have you move your eyes. It's a well-established tool for PTSD, but now we're finding more and more different ways that it can be used outside of trauma work and outside of PTSD. It helps our brains mimic REM sleep and teach, instill new beliefs and new patterns in our brains. So that can be pretty cool. I also really like dialectic behavior therapy. So again, that's a lot of tools for of mindfulness, emotion regulation, and all of those things that are just going to be that like one boost to make your mental game a little bit stronger.
Awesome.
No, I love that. It's
Yeah.
amazing how sophisticated this area has become, and this
Mhm.
regular practice of this is important. But how about race day? When you're on that start line, what are some sort of takeaways in terms of mental skills that people should be thinking about developing or amplifying on race day?
There's a couple. I think I've got three right off the top of my head. The first one, again, very simple, is going to be some paced breathing. I can give it to you right now. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. It's called box breathing. So 4, 4, 4, 4. It's going to slow down and even out our breath, which sends a message to our brain of like, I'm calm, I've got this, right? Because when we're panicking, our breath gets short, right? So when our breath is nice and slow and deep, our brain goes, oh yeah, I got this, I got this. Also, ideally, once we get to that start line, we've done some visualization. We can, again, look at our lucky bracelet as that reminder of the work we've done, and we're ready. A few butterflies are okay. A few butterflies are good. So having that, that shake it out and using that, again, we're gonna reframe, right? In the therapy office, we're gonna practice and we're going to learn to reframe that's excitement, that's energy, and how do I take this anxiety and use it to propel me forward instead of to like put me in a panic and hold me back. So walking that line. The third one is just going back to what you were talking about with the why and um, the fun, right? I love the saying like fun is fast. Um, and whatever it takes to bring fun, not just to the start line, but to the whole race. Even if it's a fake it smile, our brain is getting that message of, oh, this is okay. Just the silly example, I did Unbound gravel race a couple weeks ago, and it was like historically bad conditions, like lightning, hail, thunderstorm, mud, and I was about halfway through. It's a 200-mile race, and just over the halfway mark. And by the way, it was supposed to stop raining at 8 a.m. and it's now like noon, right? So, um, and, and it just starts hailing and everyone around me is and I just looked and I just started laughing. I was like, this is just so ridiculous. And this is funny at this point, like how bad this is. It's funny. And it took this little like shift in my brain that, and then after that, I was fine, right? Before that, I'd been kind of keep. My power was dropping. I was miserable. And once I was able to laugh about it, I was like, all right, let's do this thing. So part of what we're learning in the therapy office is how to have that perspective shift and having those tools. So in the moment, we know how to fake a smile. We know how to do the breathing. We know how to come back to ourselves.
I love that. I love that little laugh thing you do. So I do the same thing. I like to travel a lot and do epic bike climbs. It's like I love this. So right
Yes.
behind me is the Tourmalet. I did that last summer.
Amazing.
And one of the things that happens to me, especially on the ones you can't see, you come around the corner, you're like, of course there's more climbing. And I just laugh because you go around the next corner, like, because part of your brain's thinking, oh, I want to be done with this climb.
Hmm.
But then you go around the corner, like, this is, of course there's more. Of course. And I giggle a little bit inside and I feel
Hmm.
better,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
It's these little coping mechanisms that I think you develop
Hmm.
the longer you're in the sport. And it's
Hmm.
funny you do that because, or that happening because I do
Hmm.
that all the
Hmm.
time. I just kind of giggle or same with a run. Like you're in a race and it's like, oh, I got to go up that next hill. You turn and you see the hill and you just like, I just like laugh. I'm like, of course I have to go up this hill. Like ridiculous. Of course I have to do it. That's awesome. I love that
Yeah.
you utilize that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the fun is fast. In fact, I
Hmm.
want to steal that and make that one of our newsletter themes because I think that we all say let's enjoy it, but I think
Hmm.
put it in a context. Fun is fast. Actually,
Hmm.
that's a nice little mantra or even just
Hmm.
a mindset.
Hmm.
But I have one more
Absolutely.
question for you, and I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but and this is a question I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm wondering what your perspective is. Why is it as triathletes, endurance athletes, or athletes in general, do we value ourselves based off of beating strangers? Because think about it, like I can go to a race like
It's a good question.
in Idaho next weekend, right? And there'll be 1,500 people that I don't know any of them. And if I finish first, I feel better about myself. If I
Hmm.
finish 10th, I don't feel as good about myself. I don't know any of these people. It's a weird, we're weird.
Hmm. We
Yeah.
are weird. You know, I don't know if this is the right answer, but I do think a big part of it is human nature and biology. And if we go back thousands of years, we needed to win to survive. And we needed to be the best in order to uh, continue our species, right? So it is ingrained in us to want to win. And especially when it's strangers, right? And be like, that guy who I don't know is definitely the enemy. So if I win, it means that again, my species survives, right? And and in the grand scheme of things, like we have had, modern technology, modern everything in just like such a tiny blip, right? So our brains haven't caught up. And our bodies haven't caught up to some of our biological urges to want to win. And sometimes we can use that for good. Sometimes it backfires against us, right? Like we don't have tigers jumping out at us anymore, right? But we still go into that fight or flight, right?
I
So,
love this because, I think you've really framed it well because I actually don't like racing my friends
mm,
like as nearly as much, right? Because
yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in competition maybe for survival with them. They're
Hmm.
my people,
Hmm.
right? Like that's my
Yeah.
crew.
Hmm.
And I'd much rather go and race 1,000 people I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing, but I think you nailed it. So that's amazing.
Yeah. No, some people are the opposite though. Some people don't really stress about all the strangers, but they have to beat that guy on the group ride. Otherwise, it's going to ruin their day. And I think that's kind of comes from that same place, our biology
But I
hierarchy,
said my
alpha.
friends, not my frenemies.
Not that guy on the group
Because
ride.
there's frenemies and then there's friends,
Okay, that's fair.
right?
That's fair.
Because if
Yeah.
to me, like if I'm going on a group ride with just my closest friends, I
Mhm.
don't care. But I've been in
Mhm.
group rides with like, yeah, I kind of that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is such a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think triathlon especially can become a very isolating solo sport when we get obsessed with the numbers and going back to that beginning of like I have to do XYZ training plan and I have to do it right and we get in this little bubble, but when we think about that again, that fun is fast, and we think about what the sport can be, the community is. I mean, I will, die on the hill that training with a community, at least sometimes, is going to give you so much more longevity in the sport. I think will make you faster in the sport, and making sure that we're not isolating it in it, but really embracing the community element.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to add in that no one's ever beaten me. They may have finished in front of me, but they don't beat me because that's how I sort of put that into a box of, really focusing on what I'm doing is because at the end of the day, no one remembers any of the times that I've done, and even my
Mhm.
most fondest memories are not about PRs or plays. It's always about an experience. So,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
this is so great to talk with you about this, and I hope this isn't the only time. I hope we have you back and dive into some of these topics a little bit more,
I love
because
that.
this is such an important area
Hmm.
for athletes, so that triathlon
Hmm.
has value or adds value to someone's life.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this was so fun. So
Once again,
thank you.
thank you so much for joining us. And John, thank you for putting this together. This was wonderful. I hope you both have an amazing weekend and
Thank you.
don't try and stay cool.
Yeah.
And out of
Will
the wind,
do.
it's supposed to be super windy this weekend, so stay out of the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the condition. So, all right. Thank you guys.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Bailey.
Thanks.
All
All
right.
right.